Hey, let me tell you a story. There was a man named Aaron Cole, a quiet guy in a loud city. Someone you would pass on the street without looking twice. He worked nights as an audio engineer for small podcasts and freelance gigs, fixing the voices of people who hated the raw sound of their own breath. He lived in a cramped apartment above a laundromat where the machines ran all night. But the noise never bothered him because he preferred the hum of the world over the presence of people. Aaron knew early that most folks never listened to what they said. They talked on autopilot, saying things they forgot seconds later. He thought it was waste, all those words floating into nothing. So he started recording everything. It began as a habit, one that made him feel in control. He kept tiny recorders taped under tables, hidden in coat pockets, stuck to the underside of bus seats. Every conversation around him became data, something he could analyze later when the city finally slept. Late one night, he got a job from a woman who sent him a voicemail file. She wanted the audio cleaned up because it came from her sister's phone. The message was panicked, shaking, words breaking apart. The sister was crying and begging someone named Mark to pick up. Then there was a sharp metal impact and silence. The client wanted her sister's last message to be clear enough to understand. Aaron listened on loop while the muted television in the corner showed a traffic update. A fatal crash on the west side. The timestamp matched the voicemail. He froze, one hand on the equalizer, realizing he was listening to the seconds right before a life ended. A boundary between being here and being gone. He leaned in and listened again, slower, isolating every breath and vowel until he felt like he was inside the moment. And something clicked in him. Not dramatic, just a quiet shift. A sense of purpose he had never felt before. He started searching for more recordings like that. Emergency calls, leaked phone clips, bystander videos from accident scenes. Anything that captured someone's voice right before the end. He listened for the pattern. The sound of a person realizing there was no way out. The stutter, the breath, the way regret entered the tone before the words formed. After months of listening, he understood something that disgusted him and fascinated him at the same time. Almost nobody died with the words they would have chosen. Fear made them choke. Panic made them ramble. The last seconds of their lives were messy and meaningless, and he believed it should not be that way. He started telling himself that a person deserved a clean ending, a final statement that said who they really were. He did not plan to kill anyone at first. He simply imagined what he would say to guide someone if he had been there. But thoughts like that grow. They spread until they become action. His first target was a man named Tyler Briggs, 34, divorced, burned out from a sales job he hated. Aaron found him through a recording from a support group uploaded to a forum. Tyler talked about feeling like background noise in his own life, like nobody heard him. Those words hooked Aaron immediately. He tracked down the building from faint clues in the audio. The elevator chime, the way the train horn sounded 10 blocks away, the fluorescent buzz of old lights. He started watching Tyler for 2 weeks, sitting in his car across the street, learning his habits, the way Tyler slammed his door at the same hour every night, the tired jokes he told his neighbor, the silence after he hung up from calls with his ex-wife. Aaron entered the apartment for the first time when Tyler was gone. Using a borrowed master key, he stood in the dark kitchen listening to the house breathe. He adjusted one glass to make a cleaner sound when lifted, tightened a loose shelf so nothing unexpected would break the moment he wanted to capture. He treated the space like an audio room, not a crime scene. On a rainy Thursday, Tyler came home late and drunk. Aaron watched from the stairwell as the man stumbled inside, kicked off his shoes, and argued with his ex over speakerphone. The anger in Tyler's voice made Aaron impatient. This was not the truth. This was noise. When the call ended, Tyler whispered that he was done, that nothing mattered. Aaron stepped inside just enough to be seen, not threatening, not aggressive. He spoke in a steady tone and asked Tyler what he would say if he knew these were his last minutes. Tyler laughed at first, confused, but then something cracked. Words spilled out, awkward and messy. then cleaner as Aaron guided him with quiet questions. What do you regret most? Who did you fail? What do you wish your daughter knew about you? The answers began as excuses, then softened into something honest. Aaron watched the tension drain from the man's shoulders as if speaking stripped away the weight of his life. When Tyler reached one clear final line about not wanting to be remembered as noise, Aaron knew the moment was right. He lifted a heavy glass paperweight from the counter and struck the back of Tyler's head with one precise hit. The body collapsed, the kitchen settled into static quiet, and the recorder hidden in his sleeve captured the last breath, the small scrape of shoes on tile, the steady hum of the refrigerator, clean and uninterrupted. After Tyler's death, Aaron refined his method. He paid cash everywhere, took different routes each night, swapped plates on his old sedan. He treated every new target like an edit he needed to perfect. He felt no thrill in the act, only a cold sense that he was creating something meaningful. His next subject was a nurse named Elena Ruiz, someone who carried sadness like extra weight on her shoulders. He found her voice in a podcast episode about burnout. She spoke about sitting with dying patients while families argued through cracked phone speakers. She said she felt like furniture, always there, never seen. Aaron traced the hospital building from the echo in the stairwell behind her, from the ambulance sirens bouncing between concrete structures. He waited on the top level of the parking garage where she always spent her break, sitting in her car, engine off, forehead against the steering wheel. When she arrived on a cold night, Aaron approached slowly, looking like an exhausted visitor catching air. She did not startle. She was too tired for fear. When he asked if she ever talked to someone who was not dying, she actually laughed under her breath. Then she started talking, really talking, about patients she lost, about a boy whose parents blamed each other, about the old man who waited alone for a family that never came. Her words were shaky at first, then became steady as Aaron nudged her gently. What would you say if this was the last time anyone listened to you? What would you want someone to remember? What truth do you think you have never said out loud? Elena admitted she feared dying in a room that smelled like disinfectant, that she was more afraid of being forgotten than of pain. When she leaned back and spoke a quiet line about wanting to be remembered as someone who stayed even when others walked away, Aaron locked onto it. That was her truth. He reached through the open door of her car with a thin cable and wrapped it around her neck. Pulling back with practiced force, there was a dull thud as her head hit the window frame. Her shoes scraped the mat for a few seconds, then the engine ticked as it cooled. He held the tension until he felt her weight drop, wiped the door handle, and left. By morning, her inbox contained a small audio file labeled Elena Last Cut. A perfect final moment. While the city woke, he loaded the recording into his archive and moved on. Patterns began to surface for people whose job was to notice patterns. A federal analyst linked several deaths through metadata on anonymous emails containing last cuts. But there was no suspect, no footage, no fingerprints, only small audio files nobody wanted to play more than once. On talk shows, commentators argued about whether the killer was some twisted counselor or a sadist pretending to offer closure. Aaron watched one of those debates while mixing audio for a commercial, listening to strangers guess at motives they could not understand. The attention irritated him. He thought of himself as a craftsman, not a monster. He became more selective, choosing people who looked fine on the outside, people who hid their exhaustion under jokes and forced confidence, a mechanic who laughed the loudest at work, a teacher who stayed late in an empty classroom because she had nowhere else to go, a real estate agent who rehearsed smiles in the dark windows of empty houses. Each recording grew cleaner, tighter, more controlled. The police had nothing but questions, but Aaron felt invisible. His routine sharpened. His mission felt justified. Everything changed when he found Jacob Hale, a 40-year-old true crime podcaster with a small but loyal audience. Jacob made episodes about unsolved cases and killers who recorded themselves, including one about the ARCHIVIST, He called the killer a control freak, someone desperate to direct other people's endings. Aaron listened to that episode 3 times, not because of the insults, but because of Jacob's voice. Steady, curious, flawed, human. He wondered what that voice would sound like if it was forced to confront its own ending. Jacob was easy to locate, streaming from his basement studio, posting daily updates, showing his gear, his surroundings, revealing every angle of his life without thinking twice. Aaron spent days watching him from a distance, understanding the rhythm of his nights, the way he rehearsed before hitting record, the way he sat in silence after finishing an episode. Aaron slipped into the basement one evening through an unlocked side door. Jacob was in his chair adjusting levels for a new episode about cold cases. He did not hear Aaron at first. The man stepped behind the desk only when he knew Jacob was focused on the waveform on screen. Jacob looked up and froze, but Aaron lifted his hands calmly, telling him to keep talking, that he wanted to hear the truth behind the voice that judged everyone else. Jacob tried to negotiate, then tried to shout, but Aaron's quiet questions chipped away at him. What do you fear most? What mistake defines you? What do you regret when the microphone is off? Jacob's voice cracked as he spoke about failures he never admitted on air, about a marriage that collapsed because he cared more about content than connection, about a sister he had not spoken to in years. His breathing slowed as he confessed things he had buried even from himself. When he reached one clean line about wishing he had listened more than he talked, Aaron felt the moment. He wrapped a cable around Jacob's throat from behind, pulling until the chair tipped. The body hit the floor hard. The microphone captured it all. The scrape of the chair, the strained gasp, the final stillness. Aaron packed up the recorder, but before leaving he did something he never did before. He looked at the microphone still blinking red. He leaned close and said that stories end the moment the truth is spoken. By the time Jacob's audience noticed his silence, Aaron was already gone, carrying the cleanest cut he had ever captured. If you want more stories like this, subscribe and stay close, because sometimes the quietest voices are the ones you should fear the most.